to Putting Food on the Table with Joey Randazzo. Tonight I'm going to be making a chicken tetrazzini, putting the heat on medium low, and it's going to start with 3 tablespoons of butter. Okay, so now while the butter is melting, I'm actually going to whisk in 1/3 cup of all-purpose flour in with the butter, and what that's going to do is start thickening and creating a little bit of a roux here for our bechamel sauce. Now, we're just going to whisk this together for about 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, once you whisk that for about 2 minutes, we're going to add 4 cups of whole milk. And if you want to add about 1/4 or 1/2 cup of creamer in with 3 cups of milk, that's just perfect as well. It'll just be a little bit thicker. It'll also be a little more fattening. So I just like to use whole milk because it's less fattening. And next, I got about 1.5 cups here of chicken broth. Pour that right into the sauce. Cook that for another minute or 2, and while we do that, we're going to stir it. Alright, we'll raise the heat here a little bit to medium now, and I'm going to add in just a little bit of salt and pepper, about a tablespoon of each just for now. We're going to add a little bit more later. Heat up, and we're going to let that boil. As it boils, we're going to whisk that all in together to be a creamy, thick sauce. So give it about 3-4 minutes to boil while lightly whisking it all together, and let it thicken. Once it thickens in about 3-4 minutes, we're just going to turn the heat down a little bit and put it to the side. Now in the meantime, I have 3 cups of water boiling here with 2 tablespoons of salt. That's going to be how I cook my fettuccine. Now, most of the time this dish calls for linguine or even like a thicker spaghetti, but I like to do whole wheat pasta, and I had this fettuccine, which also works perfect. The only difference between fettuccine and linguine is that it's a little bit wider and flatter, which actually works perfect for this dish, putting it in a casserole. Another thing is, since it's whole wheat, it's actually more compact with healthier nutrients like fiber, iron, magnesium, and zinc, as well as complex carbs. So, you know, if you're looking to make it healthy, I always suggest whole wheat pasta. It's brown. It's not used with flours that have been extremely processed and with simple carbohydrates. One of our main ingredients here, and that is the Crimini baby portobello mushrooms that we got here. Now again, it's really important that you rinse these extra careful, and then I even, after I'm done rinsing them, wipe the tops down and the bottoms with a paper towel. And this is 1 pack of baby portobellos, so it's about 8 ounces. Okay, so you can see here that the bechamel sauce is starting to boil a little bit. I got my hot water boiling in there for the pasta, the fettuccine. Let's get started on the saute. So I'm going to turn my heat on to medium high. I got a saucepan here, and I'm going to start with 1 tablespoon of butter. I'm going to let that melt, and I'm going to pour on another tablespoon of olive oil. Now, I love using olive oil for almost everything. Most Italians do. The butter does add a little bit of additional flavor. As the bechamel starts to boil, you do want to whisk it so it doesn't curdle over the top like I mentioned earlier. Alright, so we're going to get started on the saute here. We're going to start with our 2 chopped onions in with the butter and olive oil. Next, I got 5 cloves here of finely minced garlic. And then the 8 ounces of baby portobello mushrooms. We'll let that saute for about 2 to 3 minutes. Heat's on medium high. Alright, so we got the bechamel sauce coming to a boil. The water's coming to a boil. Almost time to add the fettuccine in. And over here, I got my sauteed mushrooms, onions, and garlic in the butter and olive oil. So my water's boiling here. I got about 2 tablespoons of salt in there so that the pasta doesn't stick together. I'm gonna add in the fettuccine right now as the water's boiling. And it says on the bag 9 minutes for al dente. Al dente means to the tooth in Italian, which just means that it's the perfect consistency and form of a soft pasta. Next, we're just going to add 3/4 of white wine here, and you could just eyeball it. That's going to soak right up into the mushrooms that are sauteing with the onions and garlic. We could turn down our pasta to medium-low as that's boiling. Right now, we don't want it to boil the whole time, just while we get it started. And now, I wanted to add a little bit of ground nutmeg into our bechamel sauce to give it a little bit of flavor. Now, that's been boiling for a few minutes now, so once I whisk this one last time, I'm going to turn the heat down and let it thicken by itself. Perfect. Okay, I just want to show you how everything's looking right now. We got our bechamel sauce, the fettuccine's in there. We'll give that a quick stir. And now lastly, we have our sauteed mushrooms, onions, and garlic. I'm just going to add about a tablespoon of thyme in there to give it a little bit of flavor. Perfect. Stir that up and let that simmer for another minute. Alright, just to give you guys a little sneak peek of where we're at, the bechamel sauce has no heat on it right now. It's just going to cool down and thicken up. The pasta has about 2 to 3 more minutes on it to be al dente, and I'm actually going to turn the heat off now with our sauteed mushrooms, onions, garlic, and wait for the pasta to cook. While I'm waiting, we're going to turn our oven on to 450, and we're going to bake it for 25 minutes. All right. Okay, so our fettuccine is telling me it's ready. It's been about 9 minutes, which is exactly what the bag said. Now, every pasta tells you how long it's going to take to be al dente right on the bag. So just follow the directions of the pasta. Every pasta is a little bit different. Brown pastas actually do take a little bit longer. Right here I have 2 pounds of shredded chicken. Now you can get a rotisserie chicken if you want to make it easiest. I just took chicken breasts and I baked it for 325 for about 30 to 40 minutes. It's cooked fully. However, it's going to cook even more when I do go ahead and bake it in the casserole. But this is unseasoned. I just baked it and shredded it myself. I'm going to add this right into my bechamel sauce so that it absorbs a good amount of it. And then I'm going to pour that onto the pasta mixture after I put on my sauteed mushrooms and onions. Okay, next I have my sauteed mushrooms and onions. I'm going to go ahead and just toss that right over the pasta, just like that, and stir together my shredded chicken in with the bechamel sauce. Show you what this looks like. Okay, so I have my fettuccine pasta all cooked, my mushrooms and onions, and now I'm going to take the sauce and just add that right over the top. Wow, does that look tasty. Perfetto. Allora, now I'm just gonna fold this all together and let the pasta absorb the mushrooms as well as the sauce. As you can see here, I'm just folding in the sauce and pushing around the pasta so that it's all incorporated with each other. Bene, bene. Alright, so that's what it looks like, guys. I just folded it all together. Next, I'm going to add about half a cup of finely chopped fresh parsley here. And then go ahead and stir that in as well. Okay, next I'm just going to add in about a tablespoon or 2 of olive oil on the bottom so that it doesn't stick in there and it's a little bit easier to clean up. This way when I go ahead and bake it, it's not going to stick to the bottom. And then I'm just going to pour in my pasta mixture over the top like so. And spread it out. As you can see, here's what the pasta looks like in the casserole baking dish. Lastly, we're just going to do the topping here. So I'm going to add a cup of Italian breadcrumb, a half a cup of my favorite Parmigiano-Reggiano, half a cup, and then as well as a little bit of shredded Parmesan to get a little bit of flakiness for the topping. Let's say about 4 or 5 tablespoons of that. And I'm just gonna stir that together. Okay, so I have my topping mixture here, and that is what the pasta is going to look like before it goes in. And I'm just going to spread my topping along the top, of course, like so. Now, you don't want to do too thin of a layer here because it is important that it's not going to get absorbed by the pasta and be moist. We want it to be a nice thick layer so that it's all crunchy on top. just like that. Now again, my oven just beeped at 450. We're gonna put that in for 25 minutes. Before I put that in, dot the top with the butter, just so that it bakes the top crust there with a nice buttery layer as well. And lastly, I'm just gonna put my finger over the olive oil and put a tiny little drizzle over the top. Perfect. All right, this is going in the oven. I want you guys to just see what that looks like. And now we're going in the oven. $450 for 25 minutes. All right, so I know I said 25 minutes, but I've been keeping a close eye on it. We're at 21 minutes right now, and it looks just about ready to the perfection that I want it. As you can see, the top is a little bit crispy, but not burnt.